AFGE members are sending letters to their congressional representatives urging passage of the FAIR Act, which would give federal employees a raise in an attempt to narrow the widening gap in pay between private sector and federal workers. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump right into last week in Southern labor. So here's what workers in the U.S. South and the American colonies were up to from June 14th to June 21st. In an extremely slow week for new union elections, 42 workers across 4 bargaining units filed for a union election. Another bargaining unit filed and withdrew in the same week, and unfortunately, 42 workers are also now in the middle of a decertification campaign. Workers likely pushed by their employer filed a petition to decertify the Teamsters. Local 245 is the union representing 42 workers at Rayco Granning Suspensions in Mount Vernon, Missouri. 14 workers at Intralot in Baton Rouge, Louisiana filed a petition to hold a union election with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW, Local 995. 6 workers at Lee County Electric Cooperative in North Fort Myers, Florida filed a petition to hold a union election with IBEW Local 1933. 12 workers at Corporacion Sanos in Caguas, Puerto Rico filed a petition to hold a union election with ULEES. 8 security guards at Paragon Systems in Washington, D.C. filed a petition to hold a union election with Union Rights for Security Officers, but withdrew the petition in the same week. 10 workers at Southwestern Electric Power Company in Texarkana, Texas filed a petition to hold a union election with IBEW Local 386. In campaign updates, lest we fall into despair from the disaster unfolding among the public sector labor movement in Florida, friend of the show Chris Townsend pointed out in a recent article that a mirror image is unfolding in Virginia, where some 50,000 public sector workers have quietly organized. Workers at Mercedes report that the company is already backtracking on promises to make work better and attempting to blame it on the union, even though the union is not there. That's pretty funny how that works. UAW President Shawn Fain dispelled those myths in a letter that was made public last week. In election results, 442 workers across 4 bargaining units unionized last week, with 178 workers in 3 units opting against unionization, and 14 workers in 1 unit withdrew their election petition. 201 workers at Austin Pets Alive in Austin, Texas voted 81 to 35 in favor of unionization with the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, IAMAW. 41 workers at CBD Kratom in St. Louis, Missouri voted 23 to 6 in favor of unionization with the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW Local 655. 5 workers at Spire, Alabama voted against unionization with the United Association of Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, UA Local 548. 190 workers at American University voted in favor of unionization with the Service Employees International Union, SEIU Local 500. 55 workers at ADT in Lafayette, Louisiana voted 17 to 30 against unionization with the Communication Workers of America. 10 workers at Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits in Lexington, Kentucky voted unanimously in favor of unionization with the Teamsters Local 651. 118 workers at Corning Distribution Center in Tarboro, North Carolina voted 47 to 63 against unionization with the United Steelworkers, USW, and 14 workers at Intralot withdrew their petition to hold a union election with IBEW Local 995.
Hey, 5 seconds, just wanted to say that this is only possible because of our donors. If you want to see more of this, then consider donating yourself at tvlr.fm/donate.
In settlements, grievances, and unfair labor practices, the Federal Labor Relations Authority determined that there is evidence that the EEOC is violating federal law by refusing to share the results of an office climate survey requested by the union. In strikes and bargaining updates, Railroad Workers United are renewing their calls for unity in the upcoming rail negotiations as the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen and the Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers unions continue to feud. They have launched a petition being signed by rank-and-file railroaders. United Campus Workers Southeast will be hosting their founding annual convention on July 12th through the 14th in Birmingham to merge all of the groups in the southeastern United States into one local union. Truckers Movement for Justice will begin a convoy on July the 1st in Texas to protest against poor working conditions and blacklists. 4,000 workers, members of Unite Here Local 25 in the hospitality industry in Washington, D.C., ratified a new 4-year agreement with 25% wage gains and an expanded pension. Nurses at HCA-owned hospital, Mission Hospital in Asheville, North Carolina, rallied on Juneteenth to protest the hospital's bargaining position in contract negotiations ahead of the current contract expiration date of July the 1st. The nurses are bargaining for more breaks while the hospital is focusing on getting concessions. Journalists at 8 Tribune companies, including the Orlando Sentinel, the Tidewater, the Virginian Pilot, Daily Press, the Virginian Gazette, and Tidewater Review, and members of the News Guild CWA ratified a first contract that includes higher job security, better pay, and better leave packages. In political and legislative updates, the Alabama Supreme Court says landlords have a duty to fix open and obvious issues. That's interesting, and it doesn't sound exactly like, it's different from the way that it sounds. So the argument that the defendant was making, the landlord, was saying that, look, the tenant got this place, and they saw the issues and they still rented it. So, that waives our liability. We don't have to fix it because it was like that when when the tenant came in. And the Alabama Supreme Court says, no, that's actually not the case. If there's an issue, even if it is obvious and open, when the tenant comes in, you still have to fix it. In the Alabama prison labor lawsuit, the judge has refused to issue an injunction against the state of Alabama while the case proceeds. Despite this less than ideal news, the plaintiffs in the case cite reason for hope, noting that since the suit was filed, the rate at which the parole board has granted parole has quadrupled. Huntsville State Senator Sam Gavan has pre-filed a bill to give teachers access to workers' compensation. Only 24% of eligible Alabama families are actually served by a program that provides subsidized child care. Parents can apply through the Alabama Department of Human Resources. The Alabama Public Service Commission approved a new tax on solar energy production without public comment or hearing. Missouri Tradeswomen issued a letter attacking U.S. Senator Josh Hawley for his support for Harrison Butker's sexist speech at a college graduation. AFGE members are sending letters to their congressional representatives urging passage of the FAIR Act, which would give federal employees a raise of 7.4% in an attempt to narrow the widening gap in pay between private sector and federal workers. Private sector workers now make 27% more for similar work than federal workers, up 23% from 2022. According to a new survey conducted by the Veterans Affairs Administration between January 1st and March 31st, 2024, 80% of veterans said they trusted the VA to fulfill the country's commitment to veterans, and 91.8% of veterans said they trust the VA healthcare. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.